So the last time we were here, we were talking about labor and delivery, the process of labor and delivery. And we talked about the 4 P's in labor and delivery. We said these 4 P's are the power, the passenger, the passageway, and the last one we talked about was the psychic, are the 4 P's. We said these 4 P's, they are the 4 major factors that interact during normal childbirth, which is normal delivery, the NVD. These 4 P's, we said, they are interrelated in that all 4 got to be successful to have a normal childbirth. If any one of the 4 P's is not successful, meaning we cannot have normal childbirth. So the first of the 4 P's is the power. We said the power has to do with the force at which contractions occur. The force used to contract or to cause contraction, the force helps to expel the baby out of the uterus along with the placenta, or the baby comes out first and then the same force, which is the contraction, causes the placenta to be expelled. So the power has to do with contraction of the uterus that will allow, that will cause the baby and the placenta to be delivered subsequently when we are pregnant. In this power, it also has to do with effacement. So the power can cause us to have effacement when we are pregnant, and the effacement becomes the shortening and thinning of the cervix during the first stage of labor. We said the cervix can be thicker and long before delivery. When we get into labor, as we progress toward delivery, 2 things happen to the cervix. One, it becomes shorter, and then it becomes thinner. So the thinning and the shortening of the cervix before delivery is referred to as effacement. That's what happened, and that effacement is caused by the power. Then we have dilatation. Now, before we give birth also, the cervix needs to dilate, needs to expand. The opening is all called the cervix. That opening os, the cervical os, needs to expand to allow the baby to come out. Now, that opening of the cervix is what we refer to as cervical dilation, or we can also call it dilatation. So that is caused by the power. So the power can cause effacement and also causes dilatation. Now, the pushing efforts of the mother during the second stage of labor is also caused by the power. Without the power, the mother cannot push out the baby. The next P becomes the passageway. Now, the passageway includes the mother bone pelvis, where the baby passes to come out, the soft tissues of the cervix, and also the pelvic floor, including the vagina itself and the introitus, are all what we call the passageway. Now, the passageway is the place, or those places, those departments that the fetus passes through until it is expelled out of the uterus, until it is delivered. So those areas that the fetus passes through are what we refer to as the passageway. So you have the first part, second, third part until it gets out of the uterus. We call that the passageway. Now, the next one is the passenger. Now, there are 3 passengers that make up the passengers for the P for passengers in the 4 Ps. The passengers include the fetus, the membrane, and the placenta. All 3 are what we refer to as the passenger. Now, these 3 passengers must be expelled, must be put out to complete delivery. First, we begin with the what? The membrane. The membrane has to burst to allow labor to begin. normally we said in our teaching last week, we said when the membrane ruptures, it marks the beginning of labor and delivery. So the membrane is one of the passenger. Next one is the fetus that come next to the membrane, and the third that come next to the fetus is the placenta. So first the membrane ruptures, the baby comes out, then the placenta comes at last. Now all these three passengers must come out to have a normal delivery. The last P is the psychic. Now the psychic is the emotional structure of the woman that will determine how well she's responding to labor and delivery, which can help her to have the power, the force to push out the baby. So these are the 4 P's: the passenger, the passageway, the psychic, and then we have the power. So all these 4 P's, if one is not correct, the other 3 cannot give us safe delivery. If the woman has the power, she has the passageway, she has the passenger, but she does not have the psychic, that emotional build-up of herself to push out the baby, we cannot have safe normal delivery. If she has the mentality that is the power, she has the passenger, she has the psychic. If she does not have the power to create contraction, she cannot put out the baby. So one of those 4 P's, if it is not correct along the way, we cannot have safe delivery. Now, then the next is the attitude. The attitude is the relationship of the fetal body parts to one another. In the uterus, the fetus will flex the arm towards the body, the chin comes down like this, and the knees are hitting the abdomen. That becomes what we call the flexion. So the flexion is the normal position for the fetus in utero, and that's why the fetus will be still like this. The hair is bowed down, the hair is towards the hair or the chin, and the knees are drawn up towards the abdomen. So that position of the arms, the legs drawn up, is referred to as the flexion position, which is the normal intrauterine position of the fetus. That is what we call the attitude. The back of the fetus is rounded, and the head, the chest, the knees, the legs are all folded. That can be the roverish part. So when we do palpation of the pregnant woman, if the child is in the flexion position, we can find out, because if you touch the floor of the abdomen, it has to be smooth, because if they are in the good position, the head is down in a cephalic location, in a cephalic position, and the buttocks is turned upward. So before delivery, if that occurs, they're going to have cephalic presentation. If it's the opposite comes in, wherein the buttocks is downward towards the vagina and the head is upward towards the chest, that means the child is in a breech presentation. So all these things happen. So the attitude is the relationship of the fetal body parts to one another. And the normal fetal attitude in utero is called flexion. The lie. The lie is also the relationship of the spine of the fetus to the maternal spine. Now, this has to do with the spine is up like the vertebra. Now, in this situation, the mother needs to have a normal lie. Now, there are 2 ways the lie can occur. We either have a vertical or longitudinal lie, and we have a transverse or horizontal lie. Now, take for example, this is the mother. Let's see something here. This is the mother, and the mother. Let's see something here. Let's see what we can draw for the mother. Now, let's see what we can get. Now, give me a second. Let me see here. Let's see what we can get. Something for the mother. Okay, I'm not getting it. Now, I want to print out something that can give us an example of how these things will look like when we are trying to like provide some level of some level of some artwork to see how it appears, but it's not allowing me to go about and provide what I would like to provide for the class. So there are two kinds of lie like I talk about. Now the vertical lie is the fetal spine. The spine is the vertebra, right? The fetal spine runs from the neck towards the buttocks. Now that fetal spine should be parallel to the mother spine to create a normal line. So this is the mother spine. Now the fetal spine is this. So the mother spine and the fetal spine should be together like this to create a normal line. Any mistake, it goes opposite, meaning it is not normal. So a vertical or longitudinal line is the normal line because in that situation, the mother spine is behind the fetal spine like this. This can provide vertical line. Now if it goes left to right like this, it becomes a horizontal line. So a line that runs west to east of the mother spine is a horizontal line or a transverse line, and a line that runs from north to south, up and down of the mother spine is referred to as a vertical or longitudinal line. So if it's like this, it's vertical. If it's like this, it becomes horizontal. So these are the two types of lines you're going to have. Now, in most cases, if the mother is having a vertical line from north to south, meaning the mother might have either cephalic or breech delivery. Because if it's cephalic, meaning the buttocks is upper and the head is downward, the head is the cephalic portion. If it goes towards the vaginal area, that becomes a vertical line. If the buttock is up, the head is down, that's vertical or longitudinal. Now, if it's the opposite, wherein the head is to the mom right arm and the buttock is to the mom left arm, meaning the woman is pregnant and the baby is in this position. So the baby cannot be delivered like this, going down the vagina, meaning it will be in a horizontal line, which will have to do cesarean section, which is a right angle. So if they are in a right angle or perpendicular to the mother spine, that's not a good position. That requires cesarean section. Then we have presentation. Now, there are different type of presentation along the way also. When we speak about presentation, we are talking about the portion of the fetus that enters the pelvic floor. So that portion of the fetus that enters the pelvic area first is the presenting part. So if the woman reaches 9 months or 37 or 38 weeks and above to give birth, if the head descends into the pelvic floor, that means the head is the presenting part. That is referred to as cephalic presentation. So the fetal head presents first, which is the most common presentation, is referred to as cephalic presentation. Now, there are 4 kinds of cephalic. The 4 types are vertex, as you can see on the screen here. You have vertex cephalic, mesenterocephalic, brow, and you have face. Now, the vertex is when the middle part of the head enters into the pelvic floor. That becomes a vertex cephalic presentation. If the crown, if the whole head around the head is called mesenteric, because the mesenteric crown you put on your head on the battlefield is rounded and it cycles from your forehead towards the occipital bone and passes around the parietal canal. That becomes a mesenteric. If this whole part enter into the pelvic floor, it becomes a mesenteric cephalic presentation. The brow, sometimes just this portion enters into the pelvic floor like this, that becomes a brow presentation. So when you insert your finger to do the pelvic examination, you will touch this part like the brow of the patient. That becomes a brow presentation. Now, sometimes it might be the face. This face will enter into the pelvic floor like this. When you do the PV, sometimes your hand goes into the child mouth, the child nose, and you might touch the eye. And that's why when we are doing PV or pelvic exam, you put your hand in gently, because sometimes you might puncture some facial parts of the fetus. So any of those parts that come out is referred to as cephalic presentation. Now, sometimes you might have breech. Now, breech is any of the body parts that enters into the pelvic, excluding the head, becomes breech. So if the arm enters into the pelvic floor, that is a breech arm presentation. If the legs enter into the pelvic floor, that becomes a floating breech. If it has both legs into the pelvic floor, that becomes a what? Double floating breech. If it's one foot in there, it becomes a single floating breech. So if the buttocks enter in there, that becomes a buttocks breech presentation. Now, these are different variations. Now, most commonly, if it is cephalic, that will require to do a normal delivery without C-section. Now, if it's breech is requires us to do cesarean section delivery. We have to do C-section. That requires us to go to the OR and cut the baby, cut the mom, and bring out the baby for the breech presentation. Now, it could be shoulder, it could be other body parts. Now, the presenting part, the specific structure lying nearer to the cervix is called the presenting part. Then we have the position. Now, the position is referred to as the relationship of the assigned area of the presenting part to the landmark or landmark to the maternal pelvis. The position of the patient of the fetus is defined as that relationship of the assigned area of the presenting part or landmark to the maternal pelvis. Then you have the station. Now, the station measures the progress at which the fetus is descending into the pelvic floor for delivery. So as the fetus moves downward, it gains good position. So at the beginning, it's at station 3. As it goes down, it's at station -3. As it moves downward, it goes to what? Station -2, -1, it goes to 0. 0 is the midline. When it passes 0, it goes to what? +1, +2, +3. At +3, it is almost outside. So the higher the number, the nearer we are to delivery. So if it says it at the baby is at plus station, meaning plus is below the ischial spine. If it's at a minus station, meaning it's above the ischial spine. If it is at 0, meaning it is at the ischial spine. If it is above the ischial spine, it's at minus. So every number in there will be a minus number. So -3 is less than -2. -2 is less than -1. So as it descends towards the pelvic floor, it increases in number, and those number is increasing in, meaning we are moving near the delivery. Now this, I will draw a diagram in the class, and I will make sure we all understand this if we don't understand it from here. Then you have engagement. Engagement is when the widest diameter of the presenting part has passed the pelvic inlet, is corresponding to a 0 station. That becomes engagement. So as the baby leaves the uterus, descends downward to the pelvis, goes into the vagina or into the orifice of the vagina to go for delivery, it moves into various parts of the vagina or of the uterus and the pelvic floor. So each one of those parts, it gains higher number until it is expelled out of the uterus. That's why. But I would do a diagram on this so we can understand it more when we meet in our next class for tomorrow. Now, Then we will have mechanism of labor. Now under here, we want to collect data. It is important that we track the progress of labor at this stage, because whatsoever happened, what progress we've been charting, that's how we know whether there is a progress in labor or there is not much progress we are experiencing in labor. Now, lightening or dropping is also known as engagement, and it occurs when the fetus descends into the pelvic about 2 weeks before birth. So the fetus descends into the pelvic area 2 weeks before birth. That means the abdomen, when you are pregnant, before birth, your pregnant, the fundus height drops, because it drops when the uterus has dropped into the pelvic floor. That will also reduce the size of the pregnancy in diameter. So that's what we call lightening. So lightening, or dropping for short, is when the engaging part has descended into the pelvic floor 2 weeks before birth. That becomes lightening or dropping. It is mostly seen in first pregnancy, meaning in other pregnancy it can be seen, but most of the time the female will notice this when she's having a first pregnancy, which is the primary gravida pregnant women. Now, at this stage, there will be increase in Braxton Hicks contractions. There will be increase, and there will be increase in vaginal mucosa and also in vaginal discharges. This will increase because the fetus has dropped already into the pelvic floor. So they will sort of have a lot of wetness in their underwear, a lot of mucus secretion discharges in the underwear because of the baby being dropped into the pelvic inlet. So somebody can have brownish or blood-tinged cervical mucus, which is normal. They can have cervix ripenings and become soft and partly effaced. It may begin to dilate. So as the fetus drops into the pelvic floor, which is called lightening or dropping, the cervix starts to dilate. Then you sort of have contraction. That's why you are having this Braxton Hicks contraction. There will be bursts or sudden burst of energy experienced by the mother, is known as nesting. So nesting is the mother will have some energy 1 or 2 days before delivery. This is the onset of labor. Now the mother also, they will lose some pounds, some weight. They will lose 1 to 3 pounds after the water bed bursts or ruptures. So when the water bed ruptures or the membrane ruptures, the mother will lose up to 3 pounds because the membrane contains up to 3 pounds weight. And then there will be spontaneous rupture of the membrane occur when these things occur. Now the next thing that's going to happen is then we're going to have true labor symptoms. And in here you have how we differentiate true versus false labor. And you can see them. I want to look at these ones. Take your time and look at them, because we might look at them the next time we meet. Now, there are a couple of things that are going to happen in true labor will not happen in the false labor. Now, in true labor, we are having contraction. It becomes regular. It become closer together, and the duration lasts longer when we are moving towards delivery. Now, in false labor, it is irregular, and the duration is not longer. It remains the same. So, like let's say the duration was 3 minutes in the first stage of labor. As we move towards active labor, that 3 minutes will be getting short, getting longer, and the interval becomes shorter. So if it comes in every 5 minutes, as we move towards labor, it will lessen to every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes, every 1 minute. But in forced labor, this interaction would not add up in forced labor. If it comes in after every 5 minutes, it will stick to every 5 minutes, which is a forced labor. So in forced labor, these labor landmarks do not change. They remain the same as we progress towards labor and delivery. But in true labor, as we progress towards labor and delivery, the duration will become longer, the interval becomes shorter, and the contraction will become stronger, stronger, and stronger until we deliver the baby. That's what happens in these conditions. So we'll look at that in detail when we meet face to face for tomorrow class. So reserve all your questions, and we'll meet tomorrow, and then we'll look at it from there, start from there onward. Now, we have other mechanisms of labor. Now, in these mechanisms of labor, there are a few things that happen in there, and there are 8 things that occur in these mechanisms of labor. Now, the first thing is, if it is time to deliver the baby, the first thing that happens is there should be engagement. The fetus should engage the pelvic inlet. That engagement. There will be descent, meaning it's going into the pelvic floor. Second, the third will be the flexion. The arms and the legs will move towards the normal body location, which is called flexion. Then there will be internal rotation. The fetus will spin around, rotate inside the pelvic floor. Then there will be extension. Then they will extend downward toward the pelvic floor. There will be restitution. Then there will be external rotation. And that's why when you go to give birth to a baby, when you are helping to deliver a baby, you have to hold the baby like this, and you turn, the baby comes out, they'll be turning. As you turn them, you pull them out. You can't just pull them out because they rotate externally. As they're coming out, they are turning around in a clockwise rotation. So as they're coming out, and then that's happening. And then the last part is what? Expulsion. Now, once they have already turned, they're already gone clockwise, 360-degree turn around, which is the rotation. Then they will be expelled of the uterus. So there are 8 phases of delivery. You have engagement, descent, flexion, internal rotation, extension, restitution, external rotation, then you have expulsion. All of these occur before we can experience normal delivery. So the engagement is the mechanism by which the fetus nestles into the pelvis. The fetus drops into the pelvis within the first 24 to 48 hours we talked about a few hours ago. The engagement occurs when the presenting part reaches the level of the ischial spine. Then that is what we call engagement. The descent we talk about in the 8th mechanism is the process that the fetal head undergoes as it begins its journey through the pelvis. It is a continual journey from the onset to engagement until birth, and is assessed by the measurement called the station. So the descent is done by the station. So section 1 and 2. Section 1 is a further descent that the child is still further compared to section 2. So the child is at section 2, the child is nearer the delivery than at section 1. If the child is at section 3, the child is nearer to be delivered than at section 2. So the higher the number, the closer the time to deliver the baby. Then there will be flexion. It's wearing the nodding of the fetal head down forward towards the fetal chest. That is what flex. That's what we call the flexion. The head comes down like this towards the fetal chest. It's called flexion. Then we have internal rotation. This occurs most commonly from the occipital transverse position, which is assumed at engagement into the pelvis. Now we'll look at this thing tomorrow, step by step with some diagram, because just reading like this, we don't want you to cram it. You can really understand what is in it, but when we meet tomorrow, we'll draw a diagram that will make you to understand how simple these things should be for the Nclex. Then you have extensions, you have restitution. Is the realignment of the fetal head with the body after the head has emerges, or after the head emerges. Now then we have external rotation, wherein the shoulder will rotate externally, it will turn around after the hair emerges, and then everything will get back into its normal stage before the child comes out of the uterus. That becomes the entire 8 mechanisms of labor. And this occurs step by step. And if you don't understand these things, you stay by the patient who's giving birth, you wouldn't see these things happen, because they happen, but you have to know what is happening to pick them up as they happen in the labor delivery room. So we'll go ahead, we'll provide a teaching technique for all these different breathing techniques, cleansing breath, all these things, slow paced breathing, all these things are provided for the mother during the process of labor and delivery, and they are important. They will monitor the fetal variability, will monitor the maternal variability, they will monitor both the fetal and the mother. Now the fetal, the thing we use to monitor the fetal will be the heart rate monitor, the fetal scope. And the fetal scope provide for us monitor for the fetus, and then this is how we monitor the baby. Now every time we monitor the baby, have to monitor the mother, because the baby lives on the mother. If the mother is having fast heartbeat, baby heartbeat cannot be normal. So the both individuals should have normal vital signs, but the baby vital sign most commonly depends on the mother well-being. And that's why the mother needs to be protected, given all the care when she's in this situation. So these are all different breathing techniques that we'll talk about here. In stage 1, second stage, what do you do? Third stage, and these things are on the website. So I want us to look at them keenly so that when we meet, we'll understand what we have to do. So let's look over these different breathing techniques. Pattern-paced breathing. Pattern-paced breathing sometimes is referred to as the pant blow breathing. We'll look at these things. I will show you how these things work and why are they necessary to be done. But I want you to just look them up on the website, look them up on YouTube. Then we'll meet to explain. That will be easier to explain in a simple manner. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day. See you tomorrow.